Eli, we're done. Can you make sure you do the punk rock one?
Let's go!
Hello, welcome back, family. Welcome to the Primas podcast. I am Cindy. What's up, everybody? ¿Qué onda, Prima?
Hey, Prima. Happy Wednesday. We should stop saying the weekday. I know, it's such a bad habit. Hi, Prima. I miss you.
Hi. Let's pretend it's Friday morning when this is going to air.
All right.
But we just never know when people are listening. So what if someone's listening
true.
on a Tuesday afternoon? And they're like, Wednesday? What? Okay. So today we are going to talk about love. We just really love love, and we thought we couldn't wait to Valentine's Day. But as I was thinking about this, I'm like, damn, this would have been such a cool topic for Valentine's Day. So we might have a part 2. Who knows? It might get steamy. No, but okay. So we're going to talk about love, but I want us all real quick to kind of get out of the idea of romantic love. Although that is totally a part of the conversation, when we say love, I'm thinking more of like the universal law of love, or like God is love and we are love, and love is everything, and it's a powerful energy. And so I want to just kind of say that so that we're not thinking. You can totally think of romantic love, because obviously that has a lot to do with it, but we're talking more on the universal, like where can we find love, that authentic, true, powerful love that we hear about. So yeah, I'm really excited because it's love, and like we love love. So yeah.
Oh my God, Prima, that's so true. We've talked about this so many times outside of podcasts, how we love love. I love love so much that I even named my daughter that her middle name. So my daughter's name is Melody Love. And little side story, how her middle name came to be. I remember when I was pregnant, Prima, and I was contemplating between names because we already knew her first name was going to be. And then I was like, man, I'm so undecisive on her middle name. And I'm usually not an undecisive person. I'm very like set on what I want to do. But when it came to her name, I couldn't stick to it. And I remember going back and forth with Luna and Amelia, because like I'm a huge hardcore Game of Thrones fan. And that's like the name of an actual real character. And I remember talking to Cindy. I was like about 2 weeks almost to do. And I was like, Prima, like, how did you come up with your daughter's name? You know, like, I remember she was also stuck on another name. And then when she was born, it was her name that she was given. And you gave me like the best advice. And I was like, oh my God. And once you said that, like a light bulb went off. You said, I don't know if you remember, Cindy, but you're like, well, if there's one thing you could bring into this world, what would you bring? And I just said, it's love. And at that moment, that's when her name became Melody Love.
That is amazing.
I know. My sister hates that story because, like I said, I was like almost set on Luna, and my sister, like a month before Melody was born, got a tattoo with a crescent moon.
For your unborn
Luna.
child? Oh, I'd be pissed. I'd cross it out. Like, never mind.
I know. My sister hates that story, but I'm like,
what sister?
Amanda.
Where did she got it on her wrist?
On her neck. Not just kidding.
Oh, I was like, how come
on
I've
her
never
wrist.
seen it? Oh, okay.
So we do love love, and we're very serious about this topic. Let's jump into it.
We're very serious about love. So listen up. Just kidding. Yeah, so what is love and where can we get some? So I want to talk about conditional versus unconditional love, just to kind of get the conversation started about how we can really find that true, authentic love for ourselves, and then how to share that with our loved ones. Because as everything, when we put out positive and loving energy, it's very powerful, and it helps make the world a better place. Sorry, I think it was like my Sally Mae calling me. It's from Georgia. They call me all the time. I know, so that's why I know. It's
Your
somebody
collection is calling you?
calling to collect something. And it's just like, bro, why are we thinking about money right now? This is a new year. We need to get off of that. We need to connect with ourselves. But anyway, so I read this really beautiful book called True Love by Thich Nhat Hanh, and I actually took it from my Prima's book collection. I was just looking at your book. I stayed at her apartment when I was in LA one time, and I had to fly back, and I'm like, let me look through her book collection. But anyway, I really love him, and he says that the 4 aspects of love are love, compassion, joy, and freedom. So we'll break those down. But what I really wanted to talk about was how we can identify like healthy love, which for me is in the form of whether someone is a conditional type of lover or an unconditional type of lover. And what do I mean by that? So, conditional love, and I'm getting this from Google, is earned. So, conditional love is earned on a basis of conscious or unconscious conditions being met by the lover. Whereas unconditional love, love is given freely to the loved one no matter what. So, any examples just to give a little bit more meaning if someone's still like, I still don't get it? Because it took me a while to understand it. You know, I've been kind of like interested in this topic for a few years now, but yeah.
I like the definitions you gave because, yeah, they're pretty spot on. When I think of unconditional love, I think the only unconditional love I have for anybody is my daughter. And after just seeing the Netflix series, The Night Stalker, I just asked myself these random questions, and they have to be weird. I don't know if anyone else does, but The Night Stalker is like, I like watching those criminal mind shows and like mind hunters on Netflix. Like, I just like the psychology of all that. So I ask myself, if my daughter were to be like a murderer, right? Would I still love her or not?
That is great. You got to go hard, go to the extreme.
I have to go to the extreme because I'm like, I'm going to love, when I held her, it was like this overwhelming emotion of love I felt for her, like I never met her. I didn't know her personality, but you just have this bond with your child. And the answer is always yes. Like, yeah, I'll be heartbroken if she becomes a serial killer, but I would still love my daughter unconditionally, like full-heartedly. I'm gonna have her back, and she's the only person, And then condition, and I remember, Prima, when we were debriefing earlier, you asked like, well, am I a conditional lover or unconditional lover? And I said, besides my daughter, all my other relationships, whether they're romantic, family members, friends, are all conditioned. And we'll dive into that and how and why we are this way. But yeah, so if that doesn't break it down for you what a conditional love is, if you're a parent, I mean, that's definitely unconditional love.
And definitely, like, women are set up, once we become moms, it's such a natural part of our evolution as a species. Like, we feel so connected to protect this child when they're so little. And I saw one time also, like, to connect it back to even animals or creatures in the wild, how anything that's a baby, humans, we tend to really like it. We tend to be like, oh, like a little puppy, a cat, an elephant, a rat, when they're little. Come on, they're adorable. Anything, right? And so, and it's sort of like, again, like a biological evolutionary factor that we think, like, the more smaller and vulnerable, I guess, in our brain, it's like, oh, and we have just such a, like, it could be anybody. You don't even have to be a mom. We see someone and we're just like, there's just something so natural that sparks into us. But like, as moms, we're wired to protect our child. That's how the human species has evolved, is because this mom has this, you have to drop everything once you have your child. And for me, I didn't know where it was coming from, right? It was an outside, this was bigger than me, because I'm like, what? Like, it was just so amazing. And yeah, so the like that bond, with mom and a child is a perfect example of unconditional love. Another example of conditional love in romantic partners, for example, when someone becomes jealous, it could be for whatever reason. It could be, my ex is finally dating somebody else. They moved on, and I'm like bitter, or I try to make problems. That's conditional love, because unconditional love, if you really loved somebody, it wouldn't matter who they were with. If they didn't want to be with me, for example, and they found love somewhere else, unconditional love would be good. I'm happy for them. Conditional love would be F them. I no longer fuck with them. Screw everybody. They know, like, it's just turns into this thing where it's like, oh, so you were loving them on a conditional basis. And that condition was that they gave you love and attention back. But the moment that was gone, you didn't love them anymore. That's conditional. You're placing a condition on this person. And we all do it. I'm not judging. I'm just giving like a more like common example of how unconditional, it's like that mom and child bond, and unconditional is when we put conditions on people where it's like, I fuck with that person as long as they're making me happy and fulfilling my needs, when that's our responsibility. That's no one else's responsibility, but we're taught that way, right? Because that's how I learned to be conditional, in my past romantic relationships. Now with my relationship with my daughter, it is very unconditional, but I want to always maintain that authentic bond with her. And right now she's not a baby anymore, she's getting bigger, and I have to switch up some stuff. And I keep telling myself, don't stop babying her, because kids grow and they thrive. As humans, when we're little, we thrive off of a lot of love and affection. And we don't get that, right? A lot of us don't get that because we're not really shown what true love is in ourselves, in nature. We don't have that connection with others. And so, I just keep telling myself with my daughter as she ages, like, don't ever stop looking into her eyes and listening and touching her, like if she wants to be hugged, and not just when she wants it, but we do it so much when they're babies. And as they get older, right? Like we kind of lose it. So, yeah.
I like that. And I think as women within our culture, we're also taught to love unconditionally in a lot of aspects. In our romantic relationships, like not just with our children, like with our family members, romantic partners, etc. And I don't I think we're not the traditional type of women to follow that and to love unconditionally besides our children. Would you agree, Prima?
Yeah, that's cool that you brought that up, because it's true, and I never thought about it that way. How women, but we see it all the time. Women carry kind of like that, you have to care for everybody. And I think we are in the age where we're kind of reaping the consequences of that, right? Because I'm bitter about that a little bit. I'm still healing, but I know that, like in my culture, and I talk about this a lot, my mom treated me very differently than my brothers. And it was because I had to be responsible. I had to cook, clean, help her with my younger siblings, um, help with everything at a very, very young age. And so I grew very resentful over that, where it's like in my adult relationships, I was still trying to fulfill that role to be accepted by whoever I was dating at the time, because I felt I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be in a relationship. I wanted to do what everybody was doing, and have that family. But there was so much bitterness in me, because I'm like, why? What about us? Or what about me? How come I don't get the same in respect as a woman? Why do we as women have to do all of these things for our man or our partner, but they get to do, the rules are bent for them. They get to go and do what they got to do as long as they're bringing money. And that's a very traditional thought. But I think for me, I was still close to that. And yeah, so that's cool, because I do see that. I do see as women, we have to be kind and loving and very forgiving. And it's like the moment you set boundaries, and that's why we're different, because we're like, well, I love you and I want to be loved back, but if you can't respect this boundary, I don't need it. I'm okay with, and I don't mean I don't need it as in walk away from your relationships. It means more like, I don't know. I feel like it's not a consequence, but I keep leaning towards that, where for me it's like, and it's very radical, I think, but like for me it's like I don't mind being single. I don't mind being, I hate this word, but alone, because I don't feel alone, right? But like I don't mind being single or alone for the rest of my life. And I say that now. And I don't see that in my future. I see me getting into a romantic love once again or more, you know, like I'm not saying this, but I'm just saying for a while now I have thought about, I don't know if I can be that type of person to just accept it, you know, and I don't know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, Prima, it sounds like to me you're learning how to set boundaries, which I think we've discussed a lot, and we never knew how to set them because subconsciously we were taught this way, you know, like both our moms. Like I can speak for my mom and the way she is with my dad, and I just saw that my entire life, and I also had romantic partners where I thought, well, this was it, but we always never fit. We try to fit ourselves in this box, but we never really necessarily fit that idea, and which is why like a lot of our relationships were not successful because we weren't true to who we were in our like nature, you know. So I mean, I would think the word you're looking for is boundaries. But with that being said, I remember one time a friend had showed me this book which is called The Five Languages of Love by Gary Chapman, and after reading that book, I think in my early 20s, it changed my perspective. And again, it's all practice. I didn't change from one day to the next, but I started to put that into practice because what this book taught me was how to not only know what love I want to be received, how to give my partner. And we can have different love languages. And this is the terminology from that book. And I really enjoyed this book. And I know you referenced The True Love. When I read that book, I think I had read it after The Five Languages of Love. And it wasn't impressionable to me. Nothing stood out in that True Love book for me as much as this one did. But when I read it, I love the term and I would still use it. In the book, Five Languages of Love, the author says, well, is your love tank filled, you know? And I like that verbiage because a lot of women, and I can see it around me, their love tanks are empty and they don't really know how to communicate that with their partners because we're taught to love unconditionally, to like always give and give and give, but they're never taken care of from their partners, or they're not being respected from their partners. And it's just like, I don't want to live my life like that. I believe in that balance from each other. You know, it's a two-way street. Like I have certain needs and you have certain needs. So it's all about communication, setting boundaries, and most importantly to me is like respecting each other's boundaries and communication style, you know? And I think that has really helped in like where I'm at today in my life, learning how to set boundaries, you know?
And setting boundaries, because we're not used to it, other people might take that as offensive. They might take that as you don't love me. You know, if someone's like, hey, I don't want to do that right now, and it hurts their feelings, it's like, you know, we make it about ourselves, and it's like, it's not about you. This person just doesn't want this right now. It doesn't, you know, don't take it personally. But I wanted to do another quick example of conditional love. So when someone loves us conditionally, it means that they put terms, restrictions, or rules on the giving of their love. While a person can have feelings of deep care or affection for you, their love is conditional if it feels like you have to earn it. Additionally, conditional love often vanishes during difficult times. That's a good one, right? Because we think, oh, you know, we went, whether it's like a friend, a colleague, you know, a romantic relationship, it's like we had this big issue. Can we get past it? Unconditionally, thinking about the situation, it's like you can get past anything. But if you're thinking conditionally, then I think most of my relationships, when it did get bad, for me, it was like, it's over. It's over. Like we broke boundaries. We, you know, like it's, I just like it. I just feel like it really resonates. Like I've felt it before in different ways. Conditional love often vanishes during difficult times. So the dilemma is we can learn to be unconditional by healing our trauma, seeking help, and working on ourselves. that's a part of the solutions. But I just kind of wanted to give a little more example of conditional versus unconditional. If we're still not making sense, I think they're cool topics to like look into, just so that we can, I don't know, be aware and understand why someone is conditional versus unconditional, and then kind of how to navigate around that. I've had to learn that a lot with my mom. My mom's, very conditional. She wasn't shown love, as a child. Her mom also was, is conditional because she wasn't shown love as a child. And yeah, so we're just like running around in these relationships, kind of faking it with each other, because we're not keeping it real. But we know when something is off. So I wanted to also mention something from Thich Nhat Hanh's book, True Love. By the way, it's a very short read. So if someone is into this author, or if you're looking for something like super short, I read it in like an hour. It's like really, really short. And it's really sweet. Jessica said she didn't resonate with the message. And I've been studying Thich Nhat Hanh for a while. So for me, it totally resonated. But I don't know, I've kind of been practicing the way he talks, his style, So for me, it was like, oh, I get it. But okay, so he says, training is needed in order to love properly. And to be able to give happiness and joy, you must practice deep looking directed toward the person you love. I gave this example earlier about my daughter. I've always done it just because in psychology, we kind of learn a lot about like sensation and perception and how like deep that can be. And so with my daughter, I've always practiced since she was born, like looking deeply into her eyes to kind of make that connection. And now as she's getting older, every time she talks to me, or I kind of found myself doing it today, I was washing the dishes and my back was to my mom, and my mom was saying something, and I turned around to look at her because I just kind of wanted to listen to her deeply, like I want to practice these things. And so I just thought it was really nice. And so again, this is another way that you can practice to really truly love someone, is by giving them your full undivided attention. Because many times someone's talking to us and we're looking down on our phone, or our head is somewhere else. And it's like, what better gift for a loved one than for you to look deeply into their eyes when you're with them? So I thought that was beautiful.
That was Prima. And then I like that quote. For me, the way I interpret it was like self-love. And I feel like a lot of our issues earlier on were like our self-love, like we weren't taught to like, I feel like a lot of people are trying to find happiness or fill those voids within themselves with someone else. But I think what I've learned is it comes from me, and then I can give, like I can't give on a half tank, that's empty. I can't give when like my love tank is not as full, because I need to fill that. You know what I mean? It's like you're always going to be running or searching for that void, but you could do it within yourself, and that comes with time and practice. But I like that quote. That's how I interpret it. And it's about practicing, about showing and communicating how you want things to be for yourself, because like you said, you're practicing that, but that might not be your daughter's, or that not might be your mom's, but you're establishing like, well, this means a lot to me, and that's your love language.
Yes. And I think the more you practice it, and we hear this with a lot of things, it kind of, you start embodying it. Because I don't think I felt authentic love besides from my daughter and maybe like a few people that I know. Sorry, I got a cough. Yeah. So practice makes perfect. And then also I wanted to mention, this one, we've posted it before on the Prima's Instagram page, where it says, from a society that benefits from your self-doubt, liking yourself is an act of rebellion. Something like that, right? But like you were saying, we don't know what it is, so it's best to practice it within ourselves and then spread it, and then hopefully we embody it, right? Like that's the message. We don't know. We're just sharing what we kind of sort of know on the topic so far, but it's a learning experience. And I think, never are we taught, so it's no one's fault. We're never that our parents didn't love us, because their parents didn't love them. And guess what? Their parents probably didn't love them, because where do we learn this? And so in school, at work, we nowhere do we practice And, love or self-love, everything is very like robotic and mechanic. When you're at work, you got to act a certain way. Right now I'm interviewing a lot. I've been interviewing so much, which is great. I love the practice. But in the beginning, I was being myself a lot. And I kind of felt like, and someone told me, stop being yourself in the interview, because I think I come off as too, I don't know. I don't know what people get, but it's not, I guess, that professional, use your words correctly, just this persona that I'm like, I have to remember who that was and I have to bring her back out because I've been practicing just being me. And so that's a good example of how in the world it's not supported, it's not promoted to practice loving thy neighbor, to love everybody else or to love ourselves. It's not promoted. And a lot of the world that we live in kind of like attacks our insecurities, which are we doubt ourselves a lot. We don't know who we are. We don't have a connection to ourselves or to anybody else. And so we live in this huge materialistic world, right? Capitalistic world where what we think is value is like the way that we look, the things that we own, how many rooms does our house have, what brand of car am I driving, right? Like all of these things that it makes me think back of like the interview process. It's like, I really have to put on I can't be myself if I want to get a job in the real world. I have to code switch, which we hear a lot, where it's just like when you're talking around certain people, even though they don't talk this way in the system of work, in that environment, everybody acts differently, where you're not yourself. It's not supported that you're yourself. So yeah, practice makes perfect.
Yeah, definitely. I see what you're saying. It's just in that context, you have to be that person. But I mean, even when you get those jobs, wouldn't you say that yourself will come out after? It's just with the big bosses, you just kind of have to put in that front.
Yeah, but I think in the interview process, it's very weird. Like, haven't you been in the position where you're interviewing and even the people interviewing you, they're acting totally different than when you do get the job? Then they're like, you made it. Now we can be ourselves a little bit more.
I bust a Step Brothers. I start interviewing them.
What are you going to offer me if I work for you? Yeah. No, I think I'm a little too, I get excited. And I mean, this. Like, I don't know. I think I'm too happy. I'm too like out there, maybe not unprofessionally, but I get very excited, and I don't know if that maybe is a turn off because it comes off maybe as cocky, like it could. I'm not cocky. You know this about me. Like I think anybody who knows me would never say, "Oh yeah, she's cocky." Like I don't take myself serious ever.
Mm-hmm.
I never have. Even since I was little, I've always been like, "Oh my god," So I think that could probably challenge someone's ego. Like, why is this bitch so fucking happy? Like, she doesn't have a job yet. And it's like, I'm just happy to interview because whatever. Like, the point is I get to interview, I get to talk, I get, whatever. And I don't know. I think about it a lot when someone said, like, you need to not be yourself until you get the job type of thing. And it's just like, that sucks. But it's true, right? And so when we are in the position where we can hire, I want to like change all of that around, and just kind of like be super authentic with the person and be like, be you. Like if you have some type of value to give us, give it to us, but also be you. Like I want to promote that authenticity that's not promoted in, jobs where it's like, you're going to make this much money. So you need to say something I want to hear.
Yeah. You need to conform in a sense to like fit this description of an employee that we're looking for.
Yeah. You need to be more serious.
Yeah. I like it. And that does fall under the conditional you were saying, right? Conditional type of love where it's just an example.
And when we go into the matrix, right? When we go into the world, we have to practice this language that doesn't promote love, whether it's self-love or like love of everyone else. Like, God forbid, like why? And I'm sure there's organizations that are doing it, but in my experience, like I said, and this is very particular to like the roles that I'm looking for, I've found that I need to tone it down. I need to tone Cindy down because I might be too much. for them. And I don't know, that's so weird to me because I don't feel like I'm too much, but I am very confident in my silly, in my crazy, that I think if someone's looking at me and they're looking for something, like they want me to, you know, like dress a certain way and like act a certain way and say certain things, it just reminds me of how we're so fake. Like we don't promote it. So how are we supposed to know what love is? How is anyone supposed to know if we're all fake with each other? So another quote, in true love, you attain freedom. Oh, this is my favorite one. So for me, love equals freedom, because I've been in different relationships, not just romantic, where they're very like possessive, jealous, controlling. And I got to the place where I'm like, I'm a dove. I need to fly, baby. Like, and that doesn't mean I need to be out here in the streets. It means I didn't like the feeling of someone keeping tabs on me, or someone thinking that I owe them something because I'm with them, and it's not just romantic. My mom treated me that way too, you know, like keeping tabs on me. It's just like, what about my brothers? Like, no, you're the girl, so I got to keep tabs on you. Or, you know, like there's just been different situations where people are possessive, and then we kind of okay it and we romanticize it, like, oh, they're obsessed with me, and it's like, that's not
me.
healthy.
Yeah,
That's
they
not
love me.
good.
Yeah,
they love me because they
like
want to keep me.
iPhones, you can track your locations, and I know a lot of people who are like, yeah, like I know where my man is, and I like on every portal, right? They just track them. I'm like, but why does that, like, doesn't that drive you crazy? And then they're like, no, like I just like we love each other that much where we know where they are at all times. And yeah, I think
I mean, maybe that's an understanding they have, you know, because I feel like my brothers, like their partners know where they're at all times. Not through an app, just because they have that connection, they know where they're at all times.
Mm-hmm. But I think through the app is a little bit more possessive, like a modern way to like keep tabs on someone discreetly.
I could never do that. I'd be like, I don't know. I'd like, if I had to really do that, I don't know.
Yeah, it takes a lot of growth, I think, because I think I was like that in my younger like 20s, where I'd be like,
really?
Well, where are you? Where are you going? What are you doing? But I mean, I see it now, like I play it back and I'm like, well, that's how my parents are with each other. And I'm like, well, I just learned that behavior because of what I saw. And now today with my partner, no, where I don't need to be like, you need to call me on lunch. You need to call me on your break. I'm like, I see you every day. Like, it's okay. Let us miss each other a little bit. How about that? Where it's not that controlling aspect, or like that need to know where they are or who they're talking to at all times. I'm letting go of that for sure. But I don't think it's healthy either. And I know, like, going back to what we said about like unconditional versus conditional, I would like to say I'm a conditional like person when it comes to all aspects of my relationships. Like I do like to set these boundaries, and I don't know if that's such a bad thing to have these limitations with like not just my romantic partner, but just an understanding of the way my mom's love languages, the way my sister's love languages are, my dad's, and so forth. Like even you, Cindy, you know, I don't think it's so bad to have these conditions right now where I'm at in my life. I'm okay with having an unconditional love with just my daughter and maybe any other children I have in the future. Who knows? But so far, I'm okay with my daughter being the only unconditional like relationship I have. Everyone else, I have to put these boundaries. And I don't know.
I don't think like there, you could be in an unconditional relation, right? Like you can be an unconditional lover and set boundaries though.
Oh, okay.
You know, because your boundaries are respect.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I get it. I think, you know, you're saying like, well, these are my conditions, and you're like, you're using conditions and boundaries kind of like right together. And I think it's different. I think, I remember one time, you know, this person was like, I told this person, I think it was where I learned, you know, it's just like, I'm going to love you unconditionally no matter what. Like, I get it. You're an asshole and I hate you, but I don't hate you. Right. But like, I'm still going to care about you unconditionally. That's the decision I've made. And I don't even talk to that person anymore. You know what I mean? But I think, you know what I mean? Does that kind of explain it? Where it's just like, this was my decision because we don't have love in the world, because I know that person doesn't know true love. And that's why they do what they do and they did what they did. And now we don't have a relationship. But I think it's better for the world when you kind of can see through someone and say, that's your trauma talking. I need to set this super strict boundary because unfortunately you're not emotionally stable enough to keep you around. But I got you. My there's no bad blood. You know what I mean? Or like we said earlier, like when someone moves on, usually in romantic relationships, our ego gets hurt, right? Like how did they move on, or who's that bitch they're dating? I'm just saying, or like who's that guy? Whatever it is, we start thinking that way, and it's just like, no, love that person unconditionally to the point that if this person's happy with somebody else, that's it. That's beautiful. So yeah, so I don't think that you're that conditional, Jessica, because I feel like you accept me for my entire craziness, and that's unconditional.
Oh, that is true, I guess. I thought I was conditional, but you're right. Even with all my exes, I mean, for the most part, I have relationships with, like, I'm on good terms with them, and I think it's an open, unconditional respect. Yes. Like, okay, yeah, it didn't work out. Partially 100% because of me, guys. I'm just kidding. I'll take fault. No, but you're right. I never saw it that way. And yeah. All right, amazing. I am pretty amazing, aren't I? I'm just kidding.
You are amazing. Okay. So on the topic of freedom, it continues. You must love in such a way that the person you love feels free, not only outside, but also inside. So you would recite this mantra. Dear one, do you have enough space in your heart and all around you? That's just so beautiful. Because that's just so... I'm definitely going to speak into the universe, like when I am ready to like be in a relationship, that freedom, that this person has to come so 100% healed from everything they have going on, so that we can meet in the middle where it's like, we don't need each other for nothing. We complement each other, and we're here to share some time and experience and create memories, but it's free. Like you're free to walk away whenever you want. And I know that sounds super radical. Like that's like, what? You're free to walk away whenever you want. Yes, we're all. That's why I don't. For me personally, like I've never accepted the concept of marriage. Doesn't mean that I haven't seen it work. It doesn't mean that I'm against marriage. I don't ever speak against it. It's just something very personal from my experiences, and I've had really horrible relationships where they have been possessive, where they had been like toxic. I went to the other extreme where I'm like, oh no, I could never. I shouldn't say never because I'm still working on it, but like trust someone enough to be like, let's bond, let's connect through this contract with the government. And it's like, what? Why? Can't we just chill? Like, no, we don't need to be, I don't know. To me, it's just too serious. But like I said, I've seen it work. So this is just very personal to me, from the stuff that I've gone through. So yeah, marriage to me has always been scary because I'm like, shouldn't you be free? Why does somebody need to go through this whole process if they no longer want to be with that person? And it's like all a setup because now it's become a business, right? Exactly. I'm sure the idea was beautiful. That.
We're like the same person. I was just going to say, like, I feel like marriage is a business, and I love the idea of the commitment and all the meaning behind it, but why do we have to go through the government? It's more expensive to get a divorce than to get like a marriage certificate. Like, I don't get that. I don't get the reason behind it. I just feel like it's a business. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the reason behind it is because the world is set up so that people stay married, so they make it difficult for you to divorce. Mm-hmm. I don't know. For me, it's still, it wasn't freeing enough, like I need to go into a contract with you. Mm-hmm. Why? Like, how about we just agree to respect each other for as long as we'd like to? No, not as long as we'd like to, right? Unconditionally means you respect the person no matter what. But, the moment where it's like, you know what, I'm no longer happy and we tried it and it didn't work out. Hey, you're free to do what you got to do. Like, walk out if you need to. And that's like, no, some people are like, you have to stay no matter what. And I'm like, nah, I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't believe in love in that way.
But I love the freedom aspect, and you're right. And I'm also like learning that. Like, I always remind myself, like, okay, this isn't permanent, like nothing is, but we both have to want to be there. And we have to continuously ask ourselves, are we happy? Are we getting what we want? And if not, then, then maybe this isn't for us. Then maybe it's best we part ways, even though I'm like from Highland Park and it's like that gang mentality comes out, like the way out of this is not out of a box. Like, we're not till death do us apart. So I like that idea, the freedom.
And I think if someone's in a long term, because I'm thinking of my brothers now, where they're all in like super long term relationships. They've been with their partners for a really, really long time, and I think the game for them is different because they've put so much time in, and that I guess for me, like if I were with someone for that long, you kind of have to relearn who they are because we're always changing. We're in a constant state of change, and our personalities change. And I think it's very beautiful when you can become one, like when you see two people fuse into, because they've been together for so long and they've learned each other's everything, body language, like energy. I think that is so beautiful. um and I think that's something that's a different conversation that I wish we had that experience. But I feel like, how do they do it, because whoa, like that's beautiful. That's awesome. I aspire to that one day. And if it doesn't happen, then whatever. But I don't know. I just feel like people who have been together for like more than 5-10 years, I'm like, how do you, that's amazing.
We're going to bring them on as special guests, both and their partners.
And they're going to be like, it's not what it seems like. I'm going to start crying and no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I don't know. I think that's cool. That's another, it came to my mind because the people around me that do kind of like model healthy relationships is my brothers, because our parents kind of didn't, because they had their own traumas. And so do my brothers. That's why I think it's so amazing, because I'm like, how did you figure it out? Like, that's just awesome. Okay. I have one more quote. Actually, two more. Those who have practiced Buddhist meditation know that meditating is above all being present. So again, these are part of the solutions. How can you become an unconditional lover with whoever, right? Like we're saying that we're like that with the people closest to us, but it's really helpful to see the world that way, because then you're not getting mad anymore. Now you're understanding. Now you're saying, you don't mean what you just did to me. And that's controlling our ego, right? Keeping our ego on check. Like, you don't mean what you just did. That's your trauma spewing out to me, but I'm going to be okay. It's okay. I still send you love, and I still wish you love and everything. So to be present is the best way to show someone that you truly love and care for them. It's being present to yourself, to those you love, and to life. So that's another part of the solution, is to be present. And I was saying this earlier when I'm with my daughter, or when my mom was talking to me, and just, I want to be more intentional about when someone is talking to me, to look at them in their eyes. Not because, like, it could be a stranger, and it's just because, when does that ever happen to someone, right? Like, when does someone really look deeply into your eyes and really listens to you? And I think that's the best way you can spread love, is by saying, whatever you're saying right now, whatever it is, I'm paying attention to you deeply, because I see you, I respect you, and kind of reminds me of that. Like, I'm here with you in this moment. I'm not on my phone, right? How many times do we talk to people and they're looking down on their screen and they're answering, but they're not fully there?
I like that. In the 5 languages of love, they call that quality time. So someone who, like, not demands, but that's their love language, is their undivided attention. And then it's like talking face to face, and it could be whatever you guys both like to do, but it's that undivided attention. Like, I'm doing 100% of what you want to do, whatever it's an activity, conversation, or just sitting down and watching your favorite TV shows, but you're not on your phone and watching the show, And with that being said, I remember doing this study or watching this video about multitasking. And they said, I even had it on my freaking resume. I had to remove it after this video, because I said, yeah, like, I know how to multitask. I can be washing dishes, talking to someone, and then thinking of what I'm doing, what I need to do, like the task in my head. But that's not my undivided attention. I'm not multitasking. What I'm doing is just transitioning from one thing to the next very skillfully. But still, this person who I'm ever talking to while I'm washing dishes and thinking about what I'm doing or need to do after we're done is not my undivided attention. So I like that, being present, and that one takes a lot of practice. Mm-hmm. I'm still practicing it for that reason, because I'm like, man, there's not enough time in the day to do everything I need to do, but there is. We just need to slow down and consciously remind ourselves, bring ourselves back, and that's what meditation does. It just brings you back to the present, where you're not thinking about a future that hasn't even happened, and you're not doing house chores that don't need to be done at that moment. You know, it's that quality attention and time and effort you're giving to, again, not just your romantic partners, but to your parents, to your siblings, to your coworkers. It's like, no, I'm listening to you, and eye contact, you know. It's that's a good one to show that you are paying attention. And how many times, I can't even tell you, where I'm talking to people and they have their back towards me or they're looking somewhere else, and I'm like, are you even listening? And they're like, yeah, I'm listening. But it's like, it's kind of inconsiderate, isn't it? Like,
well, you can feel it.
Yeah. And
it's like an energy, like you're not really paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
It does take a lot of practice to be fully present. And I'm a highly sensitive person. So for me, and a lot of people have noticed this about me, and I feel like people are starting to connect the dots. Like, why does she sleep so much? And I don't sleep so much. I just take my sleep very serious. I have a night routine. I have a morning routine. I have an eating routine. Like, I'm very particular about my schedule. And I got super strict on it when I had my daughter, because I couldn't sleep for the first 2 to 3 years, right? Like when she was first born and I had to work. So I hated being tired because it makes me super in a bad mood. So I take my sleep very serious. Some people can go off of 4-3 hours, Robert and Abraham, my brothers, and they'll be fine. I cannot. Everyone's different, right? And so for me, I take my sleep so serious because in the morning, I don't want to be in a bad mood with my daughter. And we have so much to do in the morning. So that means I have to, for me to have a successful morning routine where I'm not rushing my daughter, I'm not rushing myself, I'm not forgetting stuff and running out the door hectic, right? And I'm showing up on time, everything's good, is if I prepped for my whole week the night before. Like our clothes is laid out. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I know when I'm going to wake up. I know when I have to go to sleep. Same thing with food. Like I get in a really bad mood if I'm supposed, like if I skip a meal or something, or if I'm just running off of fumes. And a lot of people don't connect that. I remember in one of my jobs, people would be like, don't talk to me until like 12 p.m. because the whole morning they were just in a bad mood, right? That's like a common thing we hear. And it's like, that's because you don't take your sleep serious. You didn't get quality sleep and you're in a bad mood. Or you're not eating right and you're in a bad mood. Or like the Snickers commercial, right? Like, oh, eat the Snickers, you're in a bad mood, like whatever. Like all of that is in order for me to be present with my daughter and not think about something else when I'm really with her, is if all of my other stuff is on check. So being present means self-respect and self-love. In order for you to truly love someone else and be there for them, you have to be charged and ready to go. And like you said, slow down, and meditation really, really helps with that. It just kind of helps to like bring you to the present moment. And there's so much beauty in everything. There's like so much magic in that book. Thich Nhat Hanh talks about that a lot, that there's miracles happening in front of us all day, every day. The sun, looking at the sun and really acknowledging the sun and feeling its warmth, that's meditation. That's you being in the present moment and you saying, thank you, sun, or whatever. You looking at the moon, you looking at a flower. And he gives a great example. You don't have to pick the flower and take it home with you. Acknowledge it, like connect with it, look at its beauty, look at its magic. And that's being in the present moment. So yes, show up for yourself so that you can show up for others. One last quote. I know you're like, how many of these are we doing? Recognizing the presence of the other. From time to time, I let myself look at the moon. Oh, I was just talking about this. I take a deep breath in and a deep breath out, and I practice. This is what you should say. I know you are there, and I am very glad about it. We are surrounded by miracles, but we have to recognize them. Otherwise, there is no life. And I think for me, because I do parallel parent, I share my daughter with her dad. It means a lot when we're together. And so for me, I have to take that time very seriously. I have to be fully consciously prepared, mentally, emotionally, physically prepared to be with her, because I miss her. I don't, when she's not with me. And I think one thing that has helped me be there for my daughter and not feel horrible when I'm not with her is when I am with her, however much time that is, it's super quality. I'm very much there. And there's been times where I'm not there and I kick myself in the butt for it. I'm just kind of like, get your shit together. You should have took your sleep more serious. You should have meditated. You should have ate correctly. You know, whatever that is that I need, like I do tell myself so that I keep going. And it's a practice. Like we said, it's a practice and it's not easy because we have to learn it for ourselves. But we still wanted to share that. We still wanted to put out the vibe of love, and love is so beautiful and magical and it's all around us. But in order for us to really give someone else true love, we need to find it in ourselves first. And it takes practice, like with everything.
I like that. I like how we're ending it with positive solutions so we can be, because in the beginning of this conversation, I said I'm a conditional lover. And yeah, the goal
turns
is
out
to
you're
be
not a psycho ass
unconditional.
bitch.
I know, turns out. Wow,
we're not cold-headed biatches like people think we are.
I know. Eloy, just kidding. And yeah, we're always harsher on ourselves, aren't we? Let's be a little bit more gentle with ourselves. It's not as bad. We're not as broken as we think we are. I love this topic. Yay, we love love. That's what we're going to call this topic.
Yeah, we love love. So yeah, thanks for listening. Give us feedback. Tell us what you think. Tell us what kind of lover are you so we can judge you. Just kidding. We never, ever, ever judge.
Send us off, Cindy. Jeez, can you cut it down? Instead of a pack a day, can you just do at least like 6 cigarettes? Does it have to be the whole like dozen?
If it's not the whole, is it a dozen? I think there's more than that.
I don't even know.
If it's not the whole pack, I get jittery, man. Just kidding.
Your body lasts another 5 minutes?
Well, today I had a post. I posted on Instagram that I had seasonal allergies. And turns out a lot of people do too. A lot of people hit me up and were like, really? We didn't want to talk about it. Because Big Brother's watching.
Yeah, they're about to give you guys a vaccine in the neck when you're not even looking. Because everyone thinks you have coronavirus.
That's hilarious. If they would just, I mean, that would suck. But if someone came at me with a needle in the neck, like, you're getting this shit, I'd be like, bro, just take it easy, man. Okay. I'm so sorry. It's a seasonal allergy cough. And like, once it gets going, it gets going. But
yeah. And it's super dry in Colorado, believe it or not.
Jessica, do you remember the one time I called you like at night and I was like, bro, I'm going into the ER. I have this cough. I can't stop coughing. And you went with me. Do you remember? We went to like Huntington.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, you were out here that time.
Yeah.
It was I do remember that. Mm-hmm. And I left you. You're like, just leave me. And I was like, no, dude, I'll stay with you. You're like, well, I don't know if they're going to admit me or what. I'm like, why do you exaggerate for? You need to practice that. Stop being so dramatic.
I don't ever go to doctors.
And then I
didn't
left.
leave. You were with me the whole time.
Oh, okay. I don't remember then, vaguely.
You fell asleep on the bed that they gave me. I'm like, why did I bring her? Like, you're knocked out. But anyway, yeah. So this allergy has happened since California. So it's not a Colorado thing. Anyways, who cares? She's talking about my medical background. So what is love and where can we find some? Look, if you have some other answers, share it with us because we're still on the search. But we wanted to spread love to the world. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the topic. And yeah.
Thanks, Prima.
Right.
Great chopping it up with you.
Yeah, it was fun. Love you.
Love you. Bye. Bye. Bye.